Hi, Questers! Today's quest is not a journey into the distant, visible structures of the cosmos, nor is it a simple tour of the glowing stars and rocky planets we can see through our telescopes. Imagine this. You step outside on a perfectly clear, pitch-black night. You look up at the sprawling, dusty arm of the Milky Way galaxy, admiring the brilliant light of 1,000 distant suns. You feel a sense of awe at the sheer scale of these massive objects. But as you stand there, you are completely unaware that an invisible, silent network of colossal power is actively dictating the movement of almost every single speck of light you are looking at. We are fundamentally biased by what our human eyes can perceive. We see the glowing matter, so we naturally assume the story of the universe is written entirely by the things we can see, governed almost exclusively by the one force we feel pulling us down every single day: gravity. But what if I told you that the glowing matter in our universe is not just shaped by gravity? What if the cosmos as we know it is being sculpted, directed, and tightly controlled by a phantom force? A force that is completely invisible, utterly silent, and yet stretches across millions of light years. Is it just gravity pulling things together in the dark? Or is there something else? Something completely hidden, quietly controlling the flow of creation? Let's begin our quest. To truly understand this invisible force, we must unlearn a fundamental assumption. You have probably been told that space is an empty vacuum, where a few isolated spheres of rock and gas float aimlessly. You were also taught there are three primary states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. In the deep expanse of the cosmos, both ideas are wrong. The universe is not an empty void. It is flooded with a fourth state of matter, a superheated, electrified soup known as plasma. In fact, roughly 99% of the observable, ordinary matter in the entire universe exists in a plasma state. If you take a gas and heat it to extreme temperatures, the atoms violently collide. The negatively charged electrons are physically ripped away from their nuclei. What you are left with is a swirling, electrically conductive cloud of freely roaming particles. Because these particles carry an electric charge, the fundamental laws of electromagnetism dictate a strict rule. Wherever charged particles move, something else immediately wakes up: magnetic fields. You cannot see them or touch them, and they cast no shadows. But wherever there is plasma, which is almost everywhere in the observable universe, there are magnetic fields threading through the cold vacuum, wrapping around planets and weaving through entire galaxies. Studying how these invisible magnetic fields interact with plasma involves a massive word: magnetohydrodynamics, but the concept is incredibly elegant. In a pure vacuum, neutral matter might drift aimlessly at the mercy of gravity, but charged particles in a plasma are practically forced to obey the magnetic fields around them. Imagine a magnetic field line as a vibrating string pulled tightly across space. When an energetic charged particle encounters this invisible string, it gets caught. The laws of physics force it to begin spiraling around the magnetic field line, sliding along exactly where the invisible field dictates. This leads to a phenomenon known as flux freezing. The plasma and the magnetic field become permanently locked together. If the plasma moves, it drags the magnetic field with it. If the magnetic field twists or snaps, it violently drags the plasma right along with it. It is exactly as if the universe has constructed an infinitely complex, invisible network of rails. Almost everything you see glowing in the night sky is essentially a passenger riding along these magnetic tracks. Gravity might decide where the station is, but the magnetic fields lay down the tracks and steer the trains. To see this phantom force in action, look at our local star, the Sun. In high-definition ultraviolet footage of the Sun, you will see massive loops of fire arcing tens of thousands of miles into space. These are called coronal loops. They aren't random explosions. Notice how they rise from the boiling surface, form a flawless arch, and plunge right back down? Those colossal loops are rivers of superheated plasma, perfectly outlining the invisible magnetic field lines of the sun. The glowing plasma is hopelessly trapped inside those magnetic tubes. But the sun is a churning fluid that rotates faster at its equator than at its poles. Because the plasma and magnetic fields are locked together, this uneven rotation causes the sun's magnetic lines to stretch and tangle like a chaotic mess of rubber bands.
Eventually, the tension becomes too great. Through a violent process called magnetic reconnection, the fields suddenly snap and instantly realign.
The energy released is incomprehensible, the equivalent of millions of nuclear bombs detonating simultaneously. We call this a solar flare. A colossal tsunami of deadly radiation and electrified plasma is hurled into the solar system. Even here on Earth, we feel the terrifying impact. When a massive solar storm hits, our planet's own invisible magnetic shield catches it, funneling the energy to the poles to create shimmering auroras. But a strong storm can overwhelm our defenses, permanently blinding satellites, scrambling global GPS, and blowing out modern power grids.
Our entire technological civilization exists at the absolute mercy of twisting, invisible magnetic lines on a star 8 light minutes away.
Let's zoom out into a distant nebula. Here, giant freezing clouds of interstellar dust and gas float quietly. Slowly, gravity begins to pull this material together to form a brand new star. Gravity pulls the gas inward, the gas compresses, and a star is born. Sounds simple, right? But there is a massive physical problem called the angular momentum problem. As gravity pulls the light-year-wide cloud inward, it begins to spin. Just like an ice skater pulling their arms in during a spin, as the cloud gets smaller, it spins faster. As the massive cloud shrinks down to the size of a solar system, its rotation speeds up exponentially. Before it compresses enough to ignite nuclear fusion, it should be spinning so violently fast that outward centrifugal force would completely rip it apart, scattering its gas back into the void. So why are there stars at all? What stops them from spinning themselves to death? The invisible force of magnetic fields. As the giant plasma cloud collapses, it drags the local magnetic field lines inward, twisting them up. These magnetic lines act like rigid, invisible spokes extending outward, connecting the fast-spinning inner core to the slow-moving outer gas. Through magnetic braking, the magnetic fields literally transfer the destructive spinning energy away from the baby star, channeling it outward into space. Without this invisible braking system, stellar collapse would be pure chaos. Magnetic fields delicately guide the flow of matter, carefully control the speed of the collapse, and actively engineer the successful creation of every star in the sky. To understand the sheer, terrifying power of cosmic magnetism, we must look at the edges of supermassive black holes. Deep in the centers of active galaxies, supermassive black holes are feeding. They have a gravitational pull so absolute that not even light can escape. As entire star systems and massive gas clouds are pulled relentlessly towards a black hole, they form a swirling accretion disk. Extreme friction heats this doomed matter into a violently churning, blindingly bright ocean of highly electrified plasma. You would expect everything in this disk to fall directly into darkness, but just before crossing the event horizon, the ultimate point of no return, something unbelievable happens.
From the north and south poles of the black hole, blinding, needle-thin beams of matter shoot into space at 99% the speed of light. These relativistic jets blast out with such ferocity that they completely pierce their host galaxy, extending for hundreds of thousands of light years into the empty void. What could possibly keep an explosion of that magnitude so perfectly, tightly focused over such vast distances? Why doesn't the energy just scatter? The magnetic fields. The spinning black hole and its accretion disk act like the universe's largest electrical generator. The magnetic field lines get wound up incredibly tight, twisting into a massive towering funnel. This immense magnetic tornado acts exactly like the barrel of a cosmic cannon. It violently scoops up the superheated plasma just before it falls into the void,
accelerates it, and blasts it outward. The intensely twisted magnetic structures physically squeeze the jet, entirely preventing it from spreading out. Without them, these magnificent galaxy-spanning jets would scatter and fade into nothingness.
When we look at the universe on its absolute grandest scales, we see these invisible forces everywhere. Even our own Milky Way galaxy is completely threaded with a complex, unseen web of interstellar magnetic fields that guide the flow of cold molecular gas and dictate where the next generation of stars will be born.
When we talk about the architecture of the cosmos, we absolutely must acknowledge the true heavy architects of reality. Gravity is the ultimate force of attraction, pulling the cosmos together across unfathomable distances. Magnetism dictates how stars are safely born from chaos and how they eventually die in spectacular explosions. It governs the invisible flow of galactic winds and tames the overwhelming fury of supermassive black holes. Gravity gives the universe its rigid structure, but magnetism is what carefully shapes it, animates it, and ultimately brings it to life.
We spend our brief lives looking at the light. We build larger telescopes to capture the faintest glimmers of ancient dying stars, desperately trying to map out reality.
But the deepest truth of the cosmos is that the light only reveals the actors standing on the stage. It does not show you the strings, the tracks, or the powerful invisible currents that are truly directing the grand performance of the universe.
So, the next time you look up at the stars on a quiet night, remember that what you can see is only half the story. Between every single star and massive galaxy, there is an invisible, twisting, pulsing network of pure energy.
The universe isn't just built by forces we see, it's sculpted by forces we don't. If you actually enjoyed this video, please like the video and share this fascinating episode with someone who loves unraveling the deep mysteries of the cosmos. Also, subscribe to the Questhut channel right now so you absolutely never miss our next incredibly fascinating scientific episode. Keep asking incredibly difficult questions daily. Keep boldly exploring the vast, terrifying unknown, and I'll definitely see you soon.